Detroit's police chief making it clear that he plans to terminate the officers who contacted Border Patrol during traffic stops. The chief says their actions were in violation of department policy. Let's get live to Fox News' Ingrid Kelly. She is at the Detroit Police Headquarters with more on the investigation. Ingrid.
Exactly. Well, hey, Roop, the police chief suspended these two officers with pay after they contacted Border Patrol. But take a look at this video. Chief Bettison believes this violation of department policy deserves termination. So he made that request known to the Board of Police Commissioners.
Chief Bettison and I agree that we need to make sure that our community and our residents trust the people that are trying to keep us all safe.
The Detroit Police Department has nothing to do with ICE, immigration, none of that. That is not their job. So why? Why would you do that just because somebody had an accent? I mean, for real? That is not what you do. That is biased policing. That's exactly what's happening. And we're not going to tolerate that kind of behavior against our residents here in the city of Detroit.
To contact Border Patrol, no, that's against policy. That being said, there have been a lot more egregious things that have happened in the police department, and people have not been terminated.
Oh, hold on now. Heard what he said now. He said there's been a lot more egregious things that have happened in the police department that people have not been fired for. So should they be fired for this? Let's keep going.
This administration will reinforce the longstanding policy that the Detroit Police Department does not in any way engage in federal immigration enforcement. So again, it believes, depending on who you ask, you get a different response. But again, for the most part, people agree that Detroit police should not interact or contact a Border Patrol. Back to you.
All right, we may be seeing more of this.
Now, this is a crazy situation. Tell me how you feel about it. Should they be fired for this? Is this a fireable offense? But let's go over into one more video just to get a little bit more details about it.
Now at 5:30, Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison says he intends to fire a police officer and a sergeant who he says broke policy. Thank you so much for staying with us on 7 News Detroit at 5. I'm Whitney Burney.
Yeah, and I'm Simon Shayket. The behavior in question, calling Customs and Border Protection during two separate traffic stops, ultimately getting the individuals involved into federal custody.
The chief says his department is not in the immigration business and takes the matter very seriously, but not every department has the same policy.
7 News Detroit reporter Ruta Alcenaida raising voices of Detroit leadership and Taylor's top cop, also learning more about how these cases are raising fears in the community.
Chief Todd Bettison made the suspension announcement at a police board of commissioners meeting that happened last week, but he says he wants to take it even further, looking to fire the officer and sergeant involved in the two stops.
98, 99% do it the right way each and every day. They're out there working hard. But I do have 1-2% that decide to violate our rules, our policies, and our procedures.
Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison making it crystal clear that disciplinary action will be taken if his officers reach out to federal agents like one officer did on December 16th on the city's west side.
We do not do immigration's enforcement.
The December incident was discovered through a body cam audit. Then just last week, on February 9th, a sergeant responded to a call for a supervisor at a traffic stop. They were requested because the civilian did not speak English. And while the department has a 24/7 translation services line, the chief says the sergeant made the decision to contact Border Patrol for translation services instead. In both incidents, the individuals were detained by federal agents, and both the sergeant and officer have since been suspended with pay. The chief requesting the Board of Police Commissioners that it is without pay, which would need their approval.
I'm disturbed.
Now, I'm not going to stop it too much, but that is crazy. You have a 24-hour translation system on available, but then you decide to call Border Patrol. That is a wild statement. That is wild. But let's keep going.
Anytime I hear a violation of policy, the policies are in place for a reason.
Meanwhile, Southwest Detroit Immigrant and Refugee Center Executive Director Kevin Piku says the incidents have increased the levels of fear within the local immigrant community.
Many in the community are even afraid to leave their house. And hearing that a Detroit police officer might just stop them on the streets and inquire as to their immigration status just compounds that fear.
But not every department has the same policies in place as DPD. For example, Taylor Police work in conjunction with federal agents, saying the partnership is not only beneficial but critical to their operations.
If we run across someone who we question their legal status, we will contact ICE or CBP. We've always worked with all of our local state and federal partners. We'll never turn our backs on them as well.
The Police Board of Commissioners are expected to meet this Thursday to take up the chief's request of suspending the 2 employees without pay. Now, with their firing, that would have to go through a command hearing, a process that could take up to 21 days. From police headquarters, I'm Ruta Olsinaida, 7 News Detroit.
We know there's more to come there. Ruta, thank you.
Now, this is a interesting situation, very interesting situation. Now, how I see it at the end of the day, if they were in the process of committing a crime, I can understand if the cops want to work with the federal agents, because that's what, especially if that's their department policy. If they committed some kind of crime and they wanted to do that, okay, that is what they do. That is what they normally do. But just the fact that they think that they speak a different language and you automatically call Border Patrol, a little crazy to me. But let's go over into the AI breakdown. So we know Police Chief Todd announced on February 17th that he is intention of firing a police officer and a sergeant for contacting federal immigration authorities during separate traffic stops, which violates department policy. At the end of the day, yes, they violate. If the department policy is that they don't call ICE, at the end of the day, you got to follow it, especially if you're part of the organization. So you got to follow their policies. According to the investigation, the Detroit Police Department, so in both cases, DPD personally contacted Custom and Border Protection and Immigration Custom Enforcement during traffic stops, leading to the detention of the individuals by federal agents. One incident happened on February 9th where the sergeant requested a translation service from federal agents after stopping a non-English speaker. The other incident on December 16th involved a officer investigating a felony warrant who suspected the individual was not a U.S. citizen. This was discovered during a body-worn camera audit. Police chiefs emphasized that DPD is not in the immigration business and has a strict policy prohibiting local police officers from engaging in federal immigration enforcement. Now, at the end of the day, if you work under this department, you got to follow their rules. So you can't be surprised if you get fired for it. Now, will the federal government step in and say that they can't be fired? It's possible. It's possible, but I don't know if they have the, legal rights to have any say about that. So let me know if your thoughts on that. So both officers are currently being suspended. So the officer and the sergeant are suspended with pay pending a final termination process. The chief has formally requested from the Board of Police Commissions to approve the firing and to withhold the officer's pay during the remainder of the investigation. Our final decision is expected to be within 21 days of this announcement. Now, the move has drawn support from local leaders like Congresswoman Rashida, but has been criticized by some conservative state politicians who argue it undermines law enforcement's cooperation. At the end of it, I do think that both police officers and federal agents and all agencies in general should work together. Now, if you think that just stopping someone, of course, just stopping someone because you think that they're a different nationality or you're not a legal citizen is profiling. As simple as that. It's profiling, race-based profiling. Now, if they commit a crime and they are in the jail, I understand 100% if you call ICE because they are an illegal immigrant. End of the day, they committed a crime and they are in jail. But what do y'all think on this whole situation, y'all? Should the officers be fired? Or And then remember that one statement that that one person said. He said that there's been a lot more crazy, awful things done by police that they weren't fired for. Let me know your thoughts on that situation, y'all. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said.